In this moment, with medical news on everyone's brains and all kinds of medical opinions being put forward, it's the perfect time to delve into this painting that shows a group of doctors in debate. The painting comes from a manuscript that contains the complete works of the poet Saadi from Shiraz, Iran, who lived in the 13th century. This copy was made about 300 years after his death at the court of the Mughal emperors in northern India. This luxury copy of the poems was written out by the famous calligrapher Abdurrahim al-Haravi, known as Amber Pen, and 23 paintings to accompany the poems were included. This one illustrates one of the stories told in the course of Saadi's most famous poem called the Bustan, or the Orchard. It falls in the 3rd chapter of the poem dedicated to parables about love. Saadi's verses, written at the top of the page and continuing on to the facing folio, make reference to a doctor from the town of Merv and have to do with the battle for wisdom over passion. But rather than directly illustrating this parable by including an image of this doctor, however, the artist has instead used the poem as a jumping-off point for the depiction of a visit to a doctor in his own period of time. The painting shows the walled courtyard of a residence with a man in a green turban keeping guard at the entrance in the bottom left corner. Next to him are the men who have brought a palanquin, a covered conveyance carried on poles, in which they have transported someone who has come to consult the medical professionals inside. In the center are the men giving their opinions, the figures that lend their name to this painting. While one man dressed in red checks the pulse of another, clad in green, those surrounding them consult various manuscripts. In front of them are 3 men who appear to be preparing medicaments with a mortar and pestle and various other tools. What are these texts and what are these men doing? Perhaps this painting shows the diagnosis of a particularly tricky case, with many doctors attempting to determine what is wrong with the patient, the man in green. Or maybe it shows the training of the young man dressed in red who is practicing on his instructor. In the Mughal period, doctors at court would have been tutored in the Unani or Greek system of medicine. It was predicated on the belief that the human body was made up of 4 humors that had to be kept in balance. Some texts were not very practical, but reading them was considered an important part of any aristocratic man's education. These tended to focus on broader theories about health and well-being, emphasizing that proper behavior and harmony in society also promoted good health in individuals. It's likely that the manuscripts shown here were instead the more rigorous Arabic language texts that most doctors in the Mughal period studied with, or they might be some of the new encyclopedias being compiled at the Mughal court, combining the Unani literature with local Indian medical practices. These texts included sections on human temperaments, on the properties of simple and compound drugs, and on remedies for different diseases, drawn from both the Unani and Ayurvedic systems of thought. Since we haven't quite determined what's happening here, we plan to do more research onto this painting that offers wonderful insight into the kinds of medical texts also in our collection and how they were put to practical use.